was an RP 552 form. Mr. Brick, I know, is very familiar with that. And what it basically says is this: the assessment was changed because there was a clerical error. Now, it was interesting, I found two pictures in the folder. One's for the warehouse, and one's for the house. So I went online and I go, listen, the garage must be commercial, because you can't get a homestead exemption on a commercial property. So I couldn't, that's what caught my attention. But the issue is that right on the folder, I see the assessment clerk went out and wrote a diagram, 2 different sketches, 2 different dimensions, and she initialed it with a date. Based on that review, I believe that what happened, and I know there were many errors when it was inputted back in '07, and I believe this was probably one of those errors where either a building was left off, all right, and I, for one, would like to talk to Mr. Liccardi and the assessor, because it's all in the folder. And what is the basis? I mean, you have the factual information there. I understand what Mr. Brick's saying. All right? Now we're going to go over to the Pickleveno property. And by the way, these were both raised the same year in the assessor's, what they call this change report. I found a very interesting form in there that is perplexing me. There was a form in there called an RP 485B, which was made out January 21st, 2008, and it's an exemption for a commercial business. Mr. Pickleveno signed it, and the full value on that was $766,500. The exact amount Mr. Surprise raised the property. So, and what the board has to understand, all right, that gave Mr. Pickleveno an exemption on his county taxes. Okay, and he had to submit that to get it. So, where my concern is, we have an owner of a piece of property that submitted a form acknowledging the $766,000. I understand the appraisal. I know how that works. But in my mind, if you signed it to get the exemption, why did you come back 2 years later? The Board of Assessment Review in 2010 only signed when they appealed it. It was in litigation. They denied it in 2011. Now, I would love to talk to Mr. Liccardi and the assessor at our next agenda meeting to understand why. All right? And Mr. Brick represents his client. I represent the taxpayer. I know there were certain things that were done that I was not happy with, okay? I looked through the roll and the board this year for the first time, because I asked the supervisor to get it. There's something called the Assessor's Change Report. And basically what that tells the board, if they all looked at it, every assessment that was changed and why. Now, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to ask the supervisor for that report again from July 1st of last year to July 1st of this year. And I would suggest that we put that report on the town website, because I cannot tell you how many people tell me that their assessments are wrong, they don't like the way the process works. Well, one way to find out how the process is working is to see that information on the town website. It's a tool, it's a measurement. And like I'm saying, I really cannot move on these tonight. Like I said, I'm only one vote. And the board decides they want to move on it, fine. But those are the facts. I need the assessor and Mr. Liccardi's interpretation, because I've heard reference made to the assessor. All this is a rubber stamp letter, but a date changed. Doesn't tell me anything, all right? So, and by the way, when I asked for that RP 485 form to be here, I was told that she had to check with the assessor before she would give it to me. All right, and all I said was, give it to me back, and I wrote down this information. So if any board member wants to see it, all right, but that's why I say, where are we now?
What was your vote?
I'm going to vote no. I'm telling you that right now.
Excuse me, I'd like to say something. Santor property is across the road from my business. He has a block building, he got a small house on that property. Property isn't very big. His building was built back in, I think, shortly after the Civil War. It doesn't have any insulation, doesn't have a bathroom. It's just a block garage that isn't very big. And between the two of them, at the settlement, he's way overtaxed, in my opinion. And I think somebody ought to go over, they all ought to go over there and look at that and tell me how they can justify that tax on that property.
Ms. DeLeva?
Yes, I'm going to say yes. I'd just like to read the reason why I asked for John Ruzicka. We talked about this at length in the agenda meeting too. He also had a letter that said, as requested, I have reviewed the preliminary settlement offer presented by counsel to the plaintiff and counsel to the defendant with regard to the above referenced court actions. I have checked the current assessed values for accuracy. The years in conflict are consistent with court filings and proceedings. I am confident that the negotiated settlement offered is in the best interest of the town, and a settlement agreement would limit additional costs the town would incur if the matter were to go to trial. He has that letter for both of these tax problems, and he has the court papers here also. So, Mr. Frick, I thank you for explaining everything, and my vote is yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Supervisor Delgado?
Yes. Motion passed.
Thank you all. Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of your summer. Now, was that for both resolutions?
No, that was for one, and don't go too far.
I'm back.